Can you hear me, Justin? Okay. I don't know what's going on. Justin, I can't hear you. I can't.
Am I on mute? Was I on mute for this entire episode? This entire first 5 minutes of the episode?
I thought I was losing Justin.
Yo,
I was going in and out.
I was going crazy on D-Book. The first 6 minutes gone to waste. Yo, I was like, D-Book is in his cookbook right now. Oh my God. I thought I was on mute from earlier.
Oh no. I was like going in and out. I was like, is my headset not working? I can't hear Justin.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you happen to make it this far on me just passionate yelling about Devin Booker and you had no clue, we have a great show lined up today. We're talking Suns Nuggets. We're going to talk first round of we're going to talk the playoffs that just happened over the weekend and these game 4s, game 5s, game 6s. We got to talk about it. But dog, mute for the whole Devin Booker rant. I was going crazy. Listen, here's where I'm at with Devin Booker. Devin Booker to me has always been a guy who's been a little overvalued. I've always had him like that Bradley Beal range, right? Somebody that has gone through, that can score offensively, but needs a superstar, needs another, he doesn't really play defense at an elite level. That's the kind of guy I had Devin Booker as, a Bradley Beal-ish, Donovan Mitchell, but with size. He's completely changed that narrative, in my opinion. When you step up in the playoffs, when you turn to your Kawhi Leonard version, when you turn to your Jimmy Butler version, you turn like Devin Booker is doing in this playoffs, shooting 60% over the NBA playoffs so far, 72% in the last 2 games. When you elevate your level of play, I got to put some more respect on your name. We're talking Kobe, we talking MJ, we talking dynamic superstar player. I've always had him as like that all-star, maybe a superstar at times, but man, I ain't never had him at this level. He's entering that elite territory.
No, and it's so funny because there was comparisons. I remember like the Zach LaVine comparison. People were like, oh, would you rather have Zach LaVine or would you rather have Devin Booker? And the efficiency that he's playing at, I think it was Shaq that was on TNT last night. And he was like, I'm sorry, Devin Booker. I said you would never go like 15 of 20, whatever he went. Then he goes, 14 of 18. I mean, he's doing it all. He's just playing at a level that I don't think anyone expected. And this Suns team, it's 2-2. We're heading back to Denver. We got ourselves a series. I mean, all the superstars are showing up. And as an NBA fan, what more could you ask for, right?
You can't ask for anything more than this. No. This has been a hell of an NBA playoff so far. And the Suns Nuggets series, I think, is going to continue to heat up. It's 2-2 right now. And it has the feel of like home team wins because of how competitive these two teams are. I will say this, though. Chris Paul's not expected back for game 5. And I'm the Suns. I try to hold off on that as long as I can. And I'm not saying anything bad about Chris Paul. I'm saying the momentum of this series right now is showing these two superstars. It's really KD and Book right now. They're carrying. We saw an increase at a DeAndre Ayton. Shout out to DeAndre Ayton. Finally stepping up a little bit. It wasn't like a true 15 like DeAndre Ayton performance, but to at least elevate. He was getting some clutch offensive rebounds that game, making some plays. They need him. This team needs him, but they need Devin Booker and KD to continue to be 30-point assassins, 40-point assassins in the Devin Booker's case. You think Devin Booker now has overtaken like KD superstar-wise, or you think KD's just playing a lesser role for Book?
I think it's a little bit of both. The one thing I realized watching the Suns without Chris Paul is they play a lot faster without him. There's a lot more transition. They're on the go. They're moving. They're pushing the ball down the court. And I think Durant could still go out there and give you, a Kevin Durant superstar performance. But he's realizing what his teammate is doing right now and the fact that he is just playing at a different level. And even like last night, what did Durant go for? Did he go for 36, 34,
yeah,
36?
Crazy, bro.
But no one's talking. Everyone's talking about Devin Booker, and they should be. I mean, he's been fantastic. And I think this for Kevin Durant is a dream situation where he doesn't have to carry the entire load. Now, come down the wire. Yeah, Kevin Durant can still give you a game winner. He can still get you a bucket with 2 minutes left. I mean, he's still got that dog mentality. But it's really been, the Devin Booker show with Kevin Durant sprinkling in here and there.
It's weird because I feel like it's almost like a 1A, 1B dynamic. Without Kevin Durant, I don't think we see this level of Devin Booker. But I also think this level of Devin Booker is playing, he's younger, he's playing at a higher level than KD. Yeah. You can't double these guys. We've talked about that at numerous occasions. You go to double KD, Book is going to cook all day long.
Yeah.
And it's wide open right now with how often he's getting the look that he wants in the mid-range. Until they're going to have to adjust to this somehow. And I don't know that the Denver Nuggets can, but right now the Suns have figured out something that has them in a groove. They figured out this KD and Booker pairing is good for 80 points in any given game, which all that means is the rest of the team has to put up 40 points for it to be a win.
Yeah. So
somehow get a performance out of a Torrey Craig, out of a TJ Warren, out of a Terrence Ross, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, campaign, like all these collections, Josh Okogie, all these collections of guys, they have to get another 40 points combined total out of these guys because the way Book and KD are playing right now, they're unstoppable. They are literally an unstoppable pair right now. And this is what everybody was worried about when the trade initially happened. So when I look at the Nuggets side of the ball, Jokic dropped 53.
Unbelievable.
53 points.
53 points.
And still lost. To me, that has to be so discouraging as a Nugget. If I was a Nuggets player right now, I'd be like, what the hell do we have to do besides be at home? How do we stop these guys? And how do we put in a better effort? I mean, you got them getting to fights with the owners and shit, bro. It's crazy. With Jokic right now, he's playing at such a high level, 25, 15, and 15 the other day as well. And it's like they can't seem to get a win.
I wonder if, Jokic continues to play at a high level. Let's say he drops like 40 points, 35 and 10 and 15, but they lose this series, right?
Yeah.
How does that, I know there's all these question marks. It's kind of like the Embiid storyline where it's like Jokic wins these MVPs, but he's not able to get out of the playoffs. Does that affect anything in your eyes? Or is it still like he's got to win this series to earn the respect of, us and the rest of...
I think we've seen Jokic in the Western Conference Finals, but it does have an eerily similar vibe to Joel Embiid. But Joel Embiid is also like 4 years older than Jokic. Jokic still has time, and I think everybody in the world would say that the Western Conference is a much harder path right now than the Eastern Conference, especially against the Suns team, who was favored by a lot of people to come out the West coming into the playoffs. So it's not like everybody had this team, this Suns team is like, oh, this is just a pushover team with no depth. No, coming into the playoffs, this is a scary out for any team. And the Nuggets, to me, are the team that's been number one in the West. He coasted. Jokic didn't win the MVP this year. So it almost feels like there's less pressure on him to see this thing through. I think if he would have won that it would have been a third in a row for him. If he would have actually won the MVP, we would have been looking at it a little bit differently. But they still, it's 2-2. The series isn't over. It's headed back to Denver. It's a 3-game series now, best of 3 wins, and they have 2 of those games at home. So when I look at Nikola Jokic, if you can't get this job done, this doesn't change a whole lot for me because we didn't expect you to come out the West, but I am next year. Next year, I will have my antennas up. I'll be saying, Jokic, you don't make it to the Western Conference Finals. You don't make it to the NBA Finals. I don't give a damn about those triple doubles. I want to see you win. I want to see you do what Devin Booker is doing on the other side. Still a lot of basketball to be played, but it would change my scope on things. Another player's been kind of up and down. In a game tonight, Matt. I see you repping the Lakers for me tonight. I'm just going to say Lakers. I'm not going to say all 3. I'm just going to say Lakers. I see you repping the Lakers tonight. The Los Angeles Lakers and Golden State Warriors play game 4 tonight. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis. He must have heard me. You know, my mic was off earlier. My mic was not off for the Anthony Davis rant. Yo, AD stepped up in a major way, and it's been this inconsistent theme of odd and even. I'm not buying into that. What I am buying into is that teams identify that he is the piece for this Laker team that keeps things ticking, offensively and defensively. So you scheme to take him away, you have a better chance of winning. Anthony Davis cannot let that happen. Game 4. I think we see a big game out of him for the first time this NBA playoffs in back-to-back games. I think we see another really big performance out of AD, who's now figured out Looney, and he's figured out JaMychal Green and how they're guarding him.
Yeah, what a huge game we have tonight.
It's
imagine, you're a Lakers fan going up 3-1. Like, that changes everything instead of 2-2. I'm really intrigued to see how, Steve Kerr adjust and what type of lineups and stuff like that he puts out there. I expect, Steph Curry to have a big game tonight. But at the end of the day, as you just said, it comes down to will we see the Anthony Davis of last night, or will we see the Anthony Davis of, or not last night, 2 nights ago, or the Anthony Davis of a few games or 2 games ago? And the Lakers can pull this one out. Things are looking real nice, and suddenly we're talking about a conference finals.
We will be 3-1. We're talking about conference finals on this show, probably for the entire episode.
That's all we're going to talk about.
90-minute show of just Lakers and playoffs and conference finals, and LeBron James is glazing the whole episode. We're not going to do that right now. What we are going to do, though, is give respect to this Warriors team who we've seen in bad spots before. Yeah. And you can't count on a veteran team that has shown championship tenacity at times throughout the last decade, right? We can't just wipe that out the equation. No. This is a tough spot for them, though. Down 2-1 in Los Angeles on the road for a team that has struggled consistently on the road this entire season and has been living and dying by the three-point shot and not at the free throw line. Seen the Lakers shoot an absurd amount of free throws this series, and I think that continues. And it's not one of those cases where you're looking at the referees like, oh, this is a referee thing. No, it's an aggressiveness thing. And the Lakers have been the more aggressive team in the paint. And the Warriors, for all intents and purposes, have been a three-point shooting team. When they've gotten hot, they've won. When they've struggled at times, they've lost. And so if they can't find a way to score in the paint, this is going to be a very short series. And we mentioned this earlier on. Kevon Looney was the starting center. And I said, you know what? This is trouble for the Warriors. Right? This is trouble. And it has still become a problem. Even though JaMychal Green was able to help out with that, he had 15 points game 2, was hitting the 3 ball. When that went away, what happened? And so the Warriors, if it's not Steph, if it's not Clay, it really is not happening efficiently wise. I'm kind of concerned. I'm not going to count them out ever because it's the Warriors. But I do have a lot of concerns because it seems like it's a two-headed monster right now.
And how about D'Angelo Russell? I mean, he's another. That's the thing about this Lakers team. Like, there is guys, when they step up, it just feels like a totally different team. And, D'Angelo Russell, he hit 3 threes in the first 5 minutes of that first game. Yeah. Like, when he's on too, man, this is a really tough team. And a team, I think, maybe not you because you're a Lakers fan, but everyone basically underrated was like, okay, the Lakers got into the playoffs. Let's see what happens now. And, they got a real team. They got a real squad that they've put together here.
Low-key, I forgot that D'Angelo Russell played for the Warriors. I low-key forgot that. Yes, and he was part of that Wiggins deal because he only played for the first half of the season, and it was announced during the broadcast, and I was like, oh, this is a revenge series for D'Angelo Russell. I low-key, it was one of those things I knew it in the back of my head, but it wasn't at the top of my mind, So when I see him playing, we've seen him in the playoffs before. We've seen him in clutch moments. We've seen him with the Nets have big moments. He's been a big shot maker his entire career, and it's like he has no pressure on him right now. Yeah. It's not like this kid was just some late round draft pick that they happen to hit on. This is a kid that's in his prime right now and was a very high draft pick. Yeah. Somebody that the Lakers, when they initially drafted him, expected a lot out of. Nets traded for him. The Timberwolves traded for him, gave up a very valuable piece in Andrew Wiggins. Like, when I look at D. Russ, this is a very valid third piece to the equation. When we talk about, the Lakers adding Kyrie or adding all these other pieces, D'Angelo Russell has all-star caliber talent. He does. And we haven't necessarily seen that consistently throughout his career, but we're seeing it right now in these big moments, which is crazy, man. So I think tonight's going to be a Laker win. If I had to put a prediction on tonight, I think tonight's a Laker win, and it'll be a very contested game. Guess who's announcing it? Guess who's officiating tonight? Take a wild. Just take a wild guess.
The only official I know is Scott Foster, so I'm going to have to say Scott Foster.
Why do we know his name? We should not know Scott Foster's name. The extender. That's the only concern I have. He's known to extend series, and the NBA wants this thing to go 7. Curry versus LeBron. So I'm not looking forward to that aspect of it. Scott Foster officiating tonight. It's not a good look for my Lakers, but they're at home, playing well. And I'm curious to see. We talked about Steve Kerr and adjustments. There were some adjustments made. Kevon Looney I thought it was, was an adjustment. He was sick.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't he? Was it game 2 that he they were saying he wasn't gonna start, and then I think it was Draymond said he saw him shoot at the shoot around. He looked awful, and they didn't think he was gonna play.
It's so that has been, I thought it was a strategic move. It ended up being something that was a little bit more than that. So we'll see what the adjustments are by Steve Kerr, but they have to do something because AD is getting his way again. He's getting to his spots and getting buckets. So that will be a very interesting series. One other note from the playoffs so far, some of the series are tied 2-2. There's others 2-1. And you actually kind of touched on this over the weekend. I wanted to talk to you about this too. The NBA bubble, there was a lot of people that call that the Mickey Mouse Championship. It didn't really matter. Oh, it was the easiest championship ever. Yeah, tears flowing, right? Every time you bring up LeBron's championship or the Lakers championship, that one didn't count. It happened in the bubble. And yet and still, the 4 teams that were in the championship games of that playoff run, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Celtics, all of them still reigning, still winning their series. Now some of them are 2-2, but at the time they were all up 2-1, and it looks like they have a very big advantage in their series now. So can we stop with all this damn the bubble didn't count? That's over with.
It's like the cores are basically the same. I know there's some new pieces here and there, but it's not like these teams were totally changed up. Like all these guys had the same like core players. Like I don't know. I think the whole like bubble didn't count, the Mickey ring, like all those guys, they're in the mud.
The Mickey ring. I can't believe it. Some of that stuff, bro. It's like when you look back and you look at it, no, guys just know how to level up. When you talk about Jamal Murray, he's a guy. He levels up during the playoffs. You see him and Jokic doing the same thing they did during their playoff run. LeBron and AD, same thing. Jimmy Butler, the only player on the Heat, it feels like both runs. He's doing the same thing. And then the Celtics looking inconsistent as hell yet again. So it looks like the same bubble run from 3 years ago. And, I think we got to start putting respect on that bubble ring. If you haven't been putting respect on that bubble ring, you damn sure ain't got no excuse not to put respect on it now. Coming in from the comments, we got Sports Nut Nick. What's good? He said the Knicks fans should be worried. Knicks fans should be worried. Heat and Knicks up on the schedule for tonight. And yes, I agree. Knicks fans, if I was a Knicks fan right now, I would be thinking this is probably over in 5. It doesn't look good. The Heat continue to pull off the biggest, probably this is going to go down as one of the most surprising runs out of any team in NBA history, coming from the 8 seed, or 7 seed, where they lost in the play-in. They were a game out. The Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, let's not forget this.
4 minutes left.
Your Chicago Bulls
4 minutes left.
Had this thing in hand. They were that close to not being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yet and still, they're 2 games out of the Eastern Conference Finals. And yes, I agree with Sports Nut Nick here. There's a big problem with this Knicks team, but it's not the Knicks. It's just the fact that the Heat are the better team.
And what would you say if someone asked you like tonight, right? What percentage are you giving that the Knicks could pull this off and bring it back tied 2-2?
It's more like 55-45. I think the Heat win. I give them like 55%. Okay. It's not where I'm counting the Knicks out specifically because I think they have talent. They're on the road in Miami. And with the way that Jimmy Butler is playing right now, how locked in, even with the ankle, like this was tough for the Knicks. It was tough for the Knicks to even win when Jimmy Butler wasn't on the floor. They're getting a higher level of play out of Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love. It just feels like this Heat team is locked and loaded, ready to go. And the only team I think that can stop them in the East is the Celtics. That's it. I don't give them a very high probability of winning, but I'm not counting them out because they have the talent and they're well coached. Where are you at with this Knicks team, man? Because obviously you hear me and I'm like, I'm not really feeling the Knicks right now, but they're in a series with the Heat. It's 2-1. You giving them a chance?
I don't think I am. And for me, it goes back to like that game 1, right? Where I thought like, okay, the Knicks are going to hold on. Here come the Heat in the 4th quarter. Suddenly like Miami wins game 1, steals it. Jimmy gets hurt, but I just think when I look at this Miami team, like Butler's playing at such a high level and other guys, like you don't know who's going to step up, but somebody will step up for that game. Maybe Strus goes out and hits like 4 or 5 threes, or Caleb Martin. Like there's all these guys that I feel like, we weren't really talking about during the regular season because they, at the end of the day, Miami was the 7th seed. And suddenly they have a team that is playing at such an incredible level where, there's a real shot they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And you know what? With Jimmy Butler, I always think about that iconic photo. We were talking about the bubble where he's like bent over the edge and he's exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, who knows with Boston, man? Like Boston's tied 2-2 in their series. You don't really know what Celtic team's going to show up. I mean, they were down basically 10 points, 15 points that entire game up until like the last like 7 minutes. And one thing I want to touch on, I know we're going to get there in a second.
Yeah.
But the fact that Jaylen Brown, like if I'm Jaylen Brown, man, I might get out of Boston at this point. Like, I don't understand. I love Marcus Smart. I know he hit that last shot after the buzzer. But why is Jaylen Brown not involved more towards the end of the games here? Like, it's just makes zero sense for me. He's somebody that can create his own shot. He's somebody that can go to the basket. Like, I get it's Tatum's team. It is Tatum's team. But Jaylen Brown is an incredible basketball player that I don't think he gets a fair shot there.
Let's just go there now. Like we can continue to talk and harp about Heat and Knicks, but let's just get straight to the point, man, and get to this Celtics series because it is 2-2 now. And the Celtics team has had an identity crisis throughout the entire year. We see it. Tatum looks like a stud, the next guy, the next premier player for the next decade, MVP candidate, Jason Tatum. We see Jaylen Brown a little disgruntled at parts of the year. Is he going to get traded? Is he going to leave? He is the 1B to Tatum's 1A, and they absolutely need him to be that. It feels like he's a little inconsistent at times, though. And then down the stretch, for whatever reason, sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. The ball ends up in Marcus Smart's hand. How? To me, it's one of the things that confuses me the most about the Celtics team. Because when I look at it, I'm like, okay, the two people that I think should have the ball in any closing scenario would be Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's almost every single scenario I can think of in my head that works in the Celtics' favor says those two should have the ball at any given point in time. Although Jason Tatum did make a boneheaded play at the last second. I'll touch on that in a minute. But why the hell the ball keeps going to Marcus Smart? I get it. He's the vocal leader of that team. He's probably the heart and soul of that team in the locker room. I don't know his contributions there, but I know that team, the defensive anchor, he's all of that. But he's not a great shooter. He's not consistent. He doesn't always make the best plays in crunch time. I get it. That shot he made would have been a hell of a shot if it was in regulation. It wasn't. It after the buzzer, it didn't count. But that ball needs to be in Tatum or Jaylen Brown's hand. And why Tatum is driving to the lane against two guys, he was close enough to put that up, in my opinion, right? But where's Jaylen Brown? Why is he not commanding the ball? It's a very big problem. I don't know why. It cannot be Marcus Smart anymore. I love his effort on defense, but the ball cannot be in Marcus Smart's hand in the last minute of the game anymore at all for the Celtics team.
And there's all these question marks about timeouts. Like the Celtics don't use their timeouts. And that's where I'm like, okay, you call timeout, you drop a play where it's going to end up in like Jaylen Brown or Tatum's hands. And it's so frustrating. Like I was watching him just sit in the corner with like 6 seconds left. I'm like, why is he not involved in it? Just, I don't know.
It makes no sense. They're at the top of the key. Tatum has the ball and he drives left. If anything, why isn't Jaylen Brown rotating? If anything, why isn't Tatum looking for Jaylen Brown? Why isn't he cutting? His action is in the corner to sit in the corner. It doesn't typically work out. It worked out for one team. It did work for the Sixers. We got to talk about Harden too. It did work for the Sixers. But Jaylen Brown in his scenario, like for me, why doesn't he have more late game calls for him? Yeah. There's not a lot of plays even drawn up for Jaylen Brown in crunch time. A lot of it is Jason Tatum. But you're right. Jaylen Brown has to have more of a role in this, on a more consistent role, I would say, for this Celtics team in order for him to make it. They locked down Embiid. Like they came back, they did what they were supposed to do. Al Horford did a hell of a job, on Embiid in late game scenarios, and it still wasn't enough. Like to go on the road, go up 3-1 and win that game, it would have meant a lot for that team. I still think the Celtics are the better team because we've seen in two really close games where we needed big money shots from James Harden, of all people. James Harden, who everybody counted out. The Sixers team has needed him more than ever this playoff run.
And my question to you is, I think we're kind of seeing something. You're like, end of the game, Philadelphia's got the ball, right? Who's taking last shot? It's kind of been, you think you're going with your MVP, but it's been Harden. And, credit to Joel Embiid for finding Harden there. Like, what a shot, man. Yeah. What a shot. What a moment for the entire city of Philadelphia, for everyone in the stands. Like, that was a huge win. You couldn't go down 3-1 heading back to Boston. You just couldn't. And Prime Harden shows up for a second time in this series, which,
man, big money Harden.
Vegas
Harden. Went to Vegas before the turn. Went to Vegas before it all started, and for a good reason. He seems relaxed, man, and in his role, I think we all counted out Harden. We saw his Rockets days. He was kind of a playoff dropper, didn't really perform well in the playoffs. He's elevated his level of play in the playoffs this series, specifically 2 40-point games, and those are the 2 wins for the Sixers. 2 clutch threes, those are the 2 wins for the Sixers. So what does this tell me? Yeah, Embiid might be the MVP, but this team absolutely needs Harden more than anything in order to win. Like, Embiid to me is one of those guys that, like, you put the ball in his hand, he's going to drop 30 for you, but I wouldn't call, like, to say he's the MVP. I think it was kind of I think this was a hand me award. Like, they handed it to him. He's not I don't think he's the true MVP of the league. He's not the most valuable player on any given point in team, because I think this Sixers team, without Embiid, can still rock and still win.
Yeah.
You put the Nuggets without Jokic, I don't think they might win 30, 40 games at that.
Yeah.
This Sixer team without Embiid, we've seen James Harden be MVP. We know he can drop 30 to 35. I kind of think that award was handed out and it wasn't given to the right person, because I know the numbers are there. The numbers, the leading scorer in the league, Embiid offensively can't be stopped for the most part. But in late game scenarios, we're seeing Harden. The distributor for this team, Harden. And when anything good happens for this Sixer team right now, so far in the playoffs, it's because Harden is making that leap.
Yeah, and that's you ask all these questions about, like, what is the definition of an MVP? Like, you'd imagine, Giannis, right? Giannis has the ball. That's going to be him that takes over there. Jokic, right? Like, Jokic drops 53 points. Like, I can't even imagine this Nuggets team without Jokic. But the 76ers team, one without him, he came back. They got just absolutely blown out of the building. And now it's James Harden at the end of the day who hits the big shot. That's the player we're talking about.
I mean, when I think Harden, you kind of, because he was out earlier in the year too, and the Sixers were struggling. We're like, where are the Sixers going to end up? And when Embiid was out, it was like it wasn't necessarily a big issue. So I don't like to down talk their accolades, their awards, but that's my job in the space, and it's to kind of counter the intuitive thought, and the thought that Embiid may not be the most valuable player in the league. Yeah, he's the highest scorer in the league, and he plays great defensively, but there's other teams that have way more valuable players, in my opinion, than Joel Embiid. So we'll see how it turns out for game 5 tomorrow in Boston, back in Boston, who's pretty much could have swept this series if it wasn't for James Harden and those big shots. Did you hear Lamar Jackson after signing? Lamar signed a pretty big deal. Only just the biggest contract in NFL history, but he came out with even bigger goals for next season. He's like, we got all these guys. So they got Bateman, obviously coming back from injury, signed Odell Beckham in the offseason, drafted Zay Flowers with a first-round draft pick. He's got weapons now. Mark Andrews, back again. That's his rock. Lamar said he wants to throw for 6,000, not 5,000, 6,000 yards. He's never thrown for 5,000 yards. Lamar said he wants to throw for 6,000 yards next season. If you had to put a percentage on that happening? 10, let's do 1 to 10. 1 to 10 chance of that happening. 10 being locked and loaded, Lamar's throwing for 6K. 1 is Lamar Jackson. Shut the hell up, bro. Just do what you do. Make magic happen with your legs. Throw the rock when you need to. Where are you at? 1 to 10 scale.
I know they have a new offensive coordinator. They got some pieces there, but I'm going like 2. Like, come on now, Lamar. Come on. Let's chill out here for a second. I understand. You know what? I respect the audacity to come out and say something like that. If he throws for 6,000 yards, I will clip this up myself and we can put it out and I'll look like a total idiot. But I'm going 2.
Yo, I think in the next 3 years, there's going to be somebody who throws for 6,000 yards. I don't know who, but with the 17 games and with seeing what Mahomes was able to do this year, I think he got to 5,500, 5,600 yards. I can't remember the exact number for Mahomes, 5,400, somewhere in that range. But there's going to be somebody who throws for 6,000 yards and goes on like a crazy, crazy run. Lamar just ain't that guy. No. Give me a 3. No. Give me a 3 because I like the heart. I like the heart and I like the mentality, right? Like, hey, it can happen. But we know it's not happening. Lamar, 6,000? That's crazy. That's a crazy number. Speaking of Mahomes, too. You watch the Kentucky Derby this weekend?
No, I didn't. Here's my thing. Like, I'll watch like the clip of it happening on Twitter. But there's so much like I get like the coverage and all that is so long. Like I think I flipped to it at one point. It still said it was like an hour and 20 minutes to the race. So I just like turned it off. I'm not going to lie. I saw the clip.
Bro, I'm like, I'm not watching the Kentucky Derby to watch for 30 seconds of running some horses. They do all the horse trotting out. They do all the stuff leading up to it, interviewing all of the jockeys, all the people. We got a 3-hour Kentucky. We have a week-long process. A week-long process for a 3-hour Kentucky Derby that happens in like 30 seconds, that really only 3 seconds of it matters. And that's the final run that you saw on TikTok. That's all that matters with the Kentucky. Why is it this big thing? Because all this money's behind it? Like, exactly. I don't get it. I don't get the spectacle. Show me the TikTok clip of Mage passing whatever second place was. Who hit the bet? That's all I want to know about. I don't care about nothing else Kentucky Derby leading up to it. Oh, this horse has been fed a strong country fed for the last 15 years. This jockey, he has a crazy story. No, I don't want to hear none of that. Show me the winner. That's all I care about. Kentucky Derby. But Mahomes is in the building. We do have a story from the Kentucky Derby. Mahomes is in the building, looking dapper, him and the wife out, stepping out for a little bit. But he ran into Mattress Mac. The infamous Mattress Mac. You see Mattress Mac bet, it's almost like, damn, I got to bet the other side.
Yeah.
Mattress Mac has a history of taking big L's. If you guys don't know who Mattress Mac is, guy bets millions of dollars on biggest sports event. I think he had $2 million or something on the Kentucky Derby. He lost that this weekend. But he has a history of betting on Super Bowls, World Series, and the runs leading up to them. Well, Mattress Mac happened to run into probably one of the more successful people that's been in the last 5 years, Patrick Mahomes, as they're walking by. He casually whispers to him, "Hey, you cost me millions." Whereas Mahomes walks away and he says, "Appreciate that." Then he says, "You should have been riding with me." Mattress Mac, imagine the guy that you just lost literally millions of dollars to over the last few years. And he's just like, "Oh, I appreciate that. You should have been riding with me." Basically just talk shit to you right in front of your face, man.
Now, I wonder if he's going to take that to heart and he will start betting on Mahomes. I'm pretty sure he's Houston-based because I know he always goes on like the Astros, which actually has been probably his only winning bet. Yeah. But I feel like after, the said quarterback, the best player in the league, says that directly to you, that would change my perspective. I would never go against Mahomes again.
It's like the theatrics of it. Are you trying to win or are you really trying to lose? Like, are you just betting on the Cowboys because they're in Dallas? Like, are you just giving away money because you want people to come to your store? It's great promotion. I can't hate. Like, Mattress Mac has good promotion. We know he's betting $1 million on all these big sports events, but he'd be losing, dude. And Mahomes has been that. I'm sure he probably lost on to Brady. Y'all, you hear about Brady? Brady, there was talks. He said, would you ever come back? He's like, oh, I got a lot of friends in Miami. I got a lot of friends on the Miami Dolphins, right? He's talking about coming back. So I don't think there's any truth to it. No. But then there's a report. 46-year-old Tom Brady might be walking away from the deal that he signed last year, 10 years, $375 million to be a broadcaster on Fox. He might be walking away from that deal. That's there, we're in this space and we like to talk sports. That's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
375. I'm not saying the GOAT needs money. I'm not saying the GOAT should, but 375, 37 million a year, more than what you were making in your football career to talk football for the next decade? Would you walk away from something like that?
No. Are you kidding me? To sit in the booth, sit in the air conditioning, and talk football? I mean,
you got to be on command. You got to be away. I mean, you don't got a wife. Like, and I hate to say that, but you ain't got a wife. You do got your kids for the next 10 years, and you want to be around. And that's a heavy commitment. Being there every Sunday in the booth, talking football as you age, as they're growing up and probably leaving the house. There's that aspect. But dog, 375 mil? 375 mil?
And wait, Justin, he would only do NFL coverage, right?
Only NFL.
So what, he's working from September to February? Like not even like the first week of February? Like what?
And who knows what his role is? Is he like chilling with Jimmy Johnson and Michael Strahan in the booth? Is he up with Tony Romo doing the broadcasting? I think like Romo probably has hella fun doing those games. It's nothing. That's probably nothing for him. But to come out and just be like, you know what? I'm not thinking 375. I don't know if I really want that. That's cojones. That's cool. That takes some balls to be able to say I'll walk away from that. So money ain't everything. I get that, but at the same time, bro, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Justin, speaking of quarterbacks, did you see the Andrew Luck Commanders thing?
I did, but give me some more details. It sounds like you got some extra details on it.
I just saw, I read about it and I didn't think much of it. Then I saw Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, come out and basically say, hey, if this happened, you can't do that. That's a violation. And I started thinking to myself, first off, the Commanders, it's so funny that they're reaching out, they're so desperate. They're reaching out to Andrew Luck. I mean, this guy's told everyone he's done. And, if you're willing to walk away at the prime of your career, what makes you think you're gonna come back for the Commanders? Are you kidding me? What?
It's tampering. I'm like, it's tampering because the Colts did him right too. Most teams are like, no, we need our money. They let him keep 24 mil. They didn't ask for it back. They let him keep it. So if I'm Jim Irsay, I'm like, nah, y'all not talking. I just paid him to stay away. Y'all not taking him. And they were desperate. They went out and got Carson Wentz last year. Commanders are desperate right now. They are, man. They're rocking with Sam Howell this year. They'll see how it goes, man. Other than that, bro, did Bronny James over the weekend, on Friday, actually, after our show, committed to USC. And I was just down in LA, so I know the proximity. UCLA, I'm sorry, Crypto Arena, USC, a mile away from each other.
Yeah.
So it was inevitable. But Bronny James, bro, committed to USC and has 6.1 or 5. It was 5.6 or 6.1. I don't know if I got one of those two numbers. 5.6 million, 6.1 million waiting for him in NIL deals. How great is it to be the son of the king? How great is it?
And my first question when I saw that, right, was if LeBron James still played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's at Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. Like you just said, the location, the fact that LeBron's going to be able to zip over to a game. He'll be able to go. You've seen him all throughout the playoffs in LA. I mean, it's going to be, I feel like the last couple of years we've been, how do I put this? We had, Lonzo Ball and all that stuff, all these big names, these guys that you want to tune in. And I'm not sure how Bronny's going to be in college, but USC is going to be must-watch basketball because
must-watch.
That's LeBron James's son.
I mean, we're watching Sierra Canyon games right now. So we're definitely be watching USC games now. He's going to have to earn a role there, obviously. But the setup is there. We know LeBron's going to be hopping over. That will be the funny part is when USC and the Lakers play, are we going to see LeBron hopping from game to game?
Yeah.
Right as soon as the USC game is done, he's going to be going to the crypto, or are they going to schedule it, right? Because there's some influence on the schedule. He's going to be like, hey, I'm trying to be at my son's game. How great is it to be the king? To be able to dictate your schedule, making sure your plan is all aligned right near your house. Your son goes to school right there. Because if the Lakers would have missed the playoffs this year, that decision would have told a whole lot. If they went to Ohio State, you're like, oh, maybe he's going back to Cleveland.
Exactly. No, the fact that he went to USC was so perfect for him. And that's just
Oregon.
LeBron.
Oregon was one of the teams too. So was he trying to link up with Dame? Was he trying to link up with? Was he keeping that? It kind of makes you think those choices. It was Ohio State, Oregon, and then USC. It makes you think did what happened in this NBA season have an effect on that? Was he going to the school closest to Pops? Guess we'll never know. because he's headed to USC and he's getting paid too.
And Justin, I just can't wait to see what NBA team reaches for Bronny James, right? Just because come on, LeBron, he's gonna do it. He will.
Yeah.
He is gonna. 40-year-old LeBron's gonna do it. Like I'm so excited to see how that all plays out.
I think he's gonna play a little closer to the vest though, because he's gonna be like, I think because he kind of already has backtracked on it now in two different instances. The first one he said he wanted, because the initial thought was, I want to play on the same team as my son. That was the initial thought. It was like, I have to play on the same team as my son. Then he kind of backtracked and he said, I want to play in the league with my son. So now we know he just wants to extend his career out. I mean, he's still playing at a high level. It's not like he's just waiting for this thing to die. It's like, nah, LeBron is still that dude. But now he wants to play with his son. So maybe that's same division, maybe that's same conference, maybe that's twice a year. We don't know. But now he's like, I don't even know if Bronny wants to go to the NBA. That's on him. And he's his own man. So he's kind of walked back on this. I think it gives a little bit of bargaining power to these teams now, especially if a team like the Lakers wants to trade up in that draft to go get him. So we don't know where Bronny's going, but we do know we got an interesting game tonight. Warriors and Lakers. Matt, what was your prediction for the game tonight?
Justin, I don't want to tell you this. I'm going Warriors.
You don't do that on this show.
I know. I'm going Warriors, and I took Warriors in game 3 and looked like a total idiot. But I still think there's that championship DNA. I think Golden State, this LA team, they realize how dangerous they are, and 3-1 is not a situation you want to put yourself in. This is not Sacramento. No offense, Sacramento. This is a team led by Anthony Davis and LeBron James with guys, all around him all around them that can make big plays and show out on any given night. So I think, Klay Thompson's going to have a huge game tonight. I think when you look at Klay as a competitor, his dad played for the Lakers. I'm pretty sure his dad also works in the Lakers organization.
Yep, still does.
So he's going to want to show out. That competitive edge is going to be there. I think Steph Curry has a big game. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like Jordan Poole, I don't know what you're going to get out of Jordan Poole. I mean, I think Draymond said he's playing on like one leg or whatever. He's injured or whatever.
Yeah,
but
Draymond is podcast after every single damn
game. How the turnaround on that is unbelievable. Like all the game will end and I'll be in bed like 2 hours later and Draymond Green clips from his podcast that talking about the game that I just watched is already on my TikTok feed. He
must have a studio in the arena. Like there has to be a studio in the arena. And he's just like, let me get my thoughts out. I have to do this. This is part of my routine, my wind down, whatever it is. He has to be doing that. But he's giving out a little too much intel. Yeah. Talking about Steph Curry was asking him, how do we defend Bron? Like that's good intel. That means they don't know how to stop him right now. And Draymond kind of, giving out the X's and O's and strategy and like in a playoff run, that can be detrimental. You never know who's watching and listening. Yeah. Like if I'm somebody in the Lakers organization, I'm listening all ears. I'm rewind, slow-mo, looking for facial expression. Did he mean that? Was that sarcastic? Like I'm looking really into that because Draymond's spilling the beans, talking a little too much. Loose lips sink ships. That's the motto in this Warriors shit, man. I think it crumbles tonight. 3-1, Lakers go up in a game. They're rested. The last 2 games have been blowouts. I think we see all-out effort from the Lakers to go with 3-1, man. So no Daily Dozen today, but y'all can play on the Champions Round app. Make sure you guys download, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out. It's been real.